Welcome, Japan.
Welcome to another edition of Welcome Japan, the update show, where it's just a solo show with me or the girlfriend, but the girlfriend's not here, she's at work. Yes, she's still at work. Nobody's working from home here yet in Japan. Where I talk to you about the good old coronavirus. That's virus? That's how they say it in Japanese. Maybe that's the best way to get tagged. I don't know. I mean, I was kind of afraid of. I guess I shouldn't be afraid. I'm such a small channel creator that if I put coronavirus, I just said it. If I put it in the title, I'm worried that I'm just gonna get dinged because I've heard about a bunch of these people getting it dinged, or I guess having what is it? I forgot what exactly the terminology is. Like they get their stream hurt or something for sending fake news. But anyway, that's besides the point. Today, I wanted to come here to tell you about my experiences. Well, I guess I could have put it in the title because it's my testimony. It's my experience with COVID-19 in Japan. I want to stress that you should take everything that I say today with a grain of salt, and that you shouldn't think of it as something that, I heard Radry on a podcast. That means it's true. That none of this stuff is just all things I've heard, like soundbite clips. Be careful with those sound bites, because I know some people, they love sound bites, and they treat it like it's their new religion, the soundbite religion. Maybe that's what I should do. Start my new soundbite army and resolution, and enjoy the new experience here on the Radry Show. So I guess I should probably start from the beginning. I wanted to document this because I think it's an important thing that's been going on here in Japan. The way they've been handling the coronavirus outbreak has been novel, I guess you could say. I'm drinking coffee. It's 10 a.m. in the morning. I'm just waking up. Yeah, I know. It takes me 5 hours to wake up. So, yeah, so I'll start very much at the beginning. As everyone knows, is that, because usually the news, they always start out with something in the news about how there's always some new scary virus out there, kids. You gotta buy that hand sanitizer. It's like a way to, get you to buy stuff or to be freaked out, basically. And which is kind of annoying because as Americans, we're so used to being, bombarded with all these articles and this media that's just basically out there just trying to scare us. So we've kind of gone, or at least I've kind of gone numb from watching all this stuff that, it's like, okay, it's like one of these boy who cried wolf scenarios where it's just sort of like, yes, we get it, it's coronavirus, it's a problem, we understand, yeah, like, okay, hand sanitizer, I'll buy it, sure. That was just the early days. It was in China, and it was far away from the United States. Now it's a huge freaking thing. And it wasn't really a big deal. And so for a lot of us in the Western world and in Japan, we're just sort of like, what ifs? It's just another virus thing that, it's in the news, and it'll go away soon. Whatever. Who cares, right? I need some juice in me. That's why I'm refueling here. And that was the thinking then. And anybody who's a fan of the show will know that my girlfriend is from Shanghai, China, and I don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating, or I want to sound hyperbole. The way it looks like it's spelled hyperbole. I don't want to exaggerate too much. I guess it's hard not to exaggerate when I like to exaggerate for comedic effect. The problem is, with my girlfriend, she was, talking to her parents back home, and her dad was pretty much telling her while they were in quarantine, because if you were following the news, they locked off where the virus, quote unquote, started in Wuhan, and they had like a very draconian approach to it. You know, cutting off the roads. Nobody could enter Wuhan. Nobody could go to the airport. That sort of thing. And you know, people are like, wow, that must be pretty serious. And I remember my girlfriend Kiki, her father was saying something like, "This is bad. Like, it's really bad, and you should take it really seriously." And of course, you know, there was reports of like 1 or 2 people at this time. What was this, like January, early February, when the news started first coming out about it, and I was just like, whatever. I mean, there's like 1 or 2 people. That could be like some guy who came from China and who was really sick anyway. So it didn't really seem like such a big deal. But she was taking it as a really big fucking deal. I mean, you know, making me follow some procedure with washing my hands, wanting me to wear a mask every day, not wanting me to do this show, actually, wanting me to meet people live in person. Because, I mean, I was watching this video the other day. It'd be nice if I could, like, show it to people. I don't know if I get content ID'd. I'm not sure if you get content ID'd on Twitch as much as probably you do on YouTube. Because, man, like, I would, like, play a song on my phone in the background, and I get content ID'd. Like, how the hell did that happen? You know? But, anyway, no, there's this video of, like, 2 people talking to each other, and they're showing you how much spit actually comes out of your mouth every time you talk. And it's a lot. It's more than you think. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, like, perhaps you're familiar with the phrase, say it, don't spray it. I mean, I think a lot of people do that. I'm not sure if you've ever been embarrassed where, like, you start talking, that little piece of spit comes out of your mouth, and then it lands on the table. And it looks pretty, I don't know, pathetic, I guess you could say. And, yeah, so that... Yeah, she was kind of freaking out about it. She was making me wear you know, not surgical masks, just paper masks. And if you watch my previous coronavirus video, or coronavirus with the Andy San that I did with him, I was drinking Corona beer, you know, a little tongue-in-cheek style, and talking about masks. You know, because the way the news is portrayed to us, it's all portrayed to us usually pretty seriously. And it's easy to make fun of something that's very serious. And especially, you're getting a lot of people out there, too, who are saying, like, things like, the masks don't work. It's like, I'm an internet professional. I'm a Twitter user, and I say the masks don't work, alright? So you need to listen to me. Alright, sure, I mean, there's been a lot of things about... I mean, yeah, there are from what I've understood and what I've read from several doctors on the internet is the masks actually do work. It's not like it's 100% like a panacea or whatever you... Did I pronounce that right? Panacea? Like a full cure-all. Like it's like wearing a gas mask. But it'll definitely help. Because, I mean, like I was saying, your spit comes from your mouth and sprays everywhere. And then, like they say, the one you want is supposedly the one that's blue on the outside. I forget what that's called. It's like just called surgical mask. That's supposedly the one you want. But then there's all these people on Twitter saying, or what's his name? Particularly this the Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General, saying, stop buying masks. They don't work. You know, people who are doctors, they need them. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, wait a minute, that's a contradiction right there. You know, if they don't work, then why do doctors need them? So I'm not. All I'm saying is that they probably do work. They're effective, but they're not that quote unquote effective. I mean, like what's kind of I notice sometimes about this, like if you get sprayed with like a liquid or something, like a sanitizer, you can definitely still taste it. I don't know if you've ever been like you've like seen spray, then all of a sudden you can smell it and it gets into your mouth somehow. Yeah, so definitely the paper masks aren't that effective. They do help, but they're not 100%. Um, yeah, so she wanted me to JM Classic Paragon. Hey, John Misha's in the house. Hey, John, how's it going? Um, cheers to you. Thanks for joining the chat. I got to build this Twitch community somehow. I know this page is kind of lacking at the moment. It's not as cool as looking as TQ Sam, who was just on the show. I know he had a much cooler display and look to his page. Yeah, so I gotta get on that. I was thinking about just finding somebody on Fiverr, and I say, fuck it. I need music for the podcast because I recently just did a poll on Twitter, and I said, do you want to have music on this show? And it seems like 60% said yes, they want it. 30% said they don't want to. They don't really care. JM Classic Paragon. John Misha. I like the background, how you two set it up. Sam did a good job. Yeah, no, Sam had a good vision. The problem with me is I've been trying to do this for I don't know, maybe I want to say years, maybe months, but I couldn't come up with like a good idea of what would look the best. Because I mean, I had these books in the background. I mean, this is kind of tacky having this little thing here. I should probably get rid of that. But I mean, the poster of Eraserhead and the little plant there is kind of cool. I want to keep that. So that'll stay for the time being, and hopefully we have more guests. And because I have the cameras and I have the setup now, I eventually will start twitching more. Literally, making more cooking videos of me just cooking stuff and things like that. But yeah, anyway, back to the main thrust of the story. I'm going to have to edit this part out. I'm going to have to edit so much. I'm going to have to be an editing fiend. Yeah, so the girlfriend was kind of... I described her as being kind of hysterical, where she was just kind of like telling me being very... kind of barking orders at me to, wash my hands. Not really giving me any logic behind why I should wash my hands, or why I should be wearing a mask, or why I shouldn't be wearing contact lenses during a certain time. Like, whatevs. I wanted to appease her, and I didn't want her to get upset at me, because she got pretty upset at me twice already during the Corona times. I guess we'll just call it the Corona times. I guess it eventually only picked up in the United States like the early March is what I understand. And, because for the while there you had the President of the United States, Trump. I should probably warn people this is going to get pretty political. Especially if you're a Trump lover. Sorry. But, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't actually know anybody who's friends of mine who likes Trump. So, if you do, I don't really consider you one of the smarter people in the world. I'm sorry, but the only people I know who really like Trump in the YouTube community are what is it, Mully, Random Yoko, and that's about it. But I wouldn't call them the brightest crayons in the box. So, it's probably fair game. Yeah, for a while there, people were watching Trump on TV about him downplaying the virus. Like, it'll be miraculously gone by September, and you won't even see it anymore, and it won't be here. Because you think about it, the news media, they're a machine, and they need to make money. The same thing with this YouTube stuff. I mean, I had a few people, sending me messages because they're upset that I put in the title, Lockdown is Coming. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, what is it? Actually, friend of this show. I don't mind saying his name because he kind of pisses me off. I'm not sure why. Friend of the show, former guest on the show, Famicom Mark Cavazos, the guy who survived prison here in Japan. He sent me a message after I was, posting, the advert for this podcast or this episode, and he sent me a message. What did he say? I'll just show you, make it much easier. It didn't, is what he said. Because as I put on here, when you're advertising, especially when on the internet, it's all about that clickbait, about the titles that grab people, that pull people into a stream. JM Classic Pair, Mark, fuck yeah. Yeah. No, so you have to, like, write titles. I learned this from abroad in Japan, that he was telling me, he says, you need to fix those titles, man, and you need to fix those thumbnails. They're not very appealing to the eye. And I started to realize that a lot of this is kind of like, it's a business, making YouTube videos. It's like making a product. And and I get it. I mean, abroad in Japan, he's got the numbers to prove that whatever it is he's doing something right. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I put in the title, Lockdown is Coming. And we'll get to that. This is a progress. It's a progression. It's a story. It's a build-up. I should have some, like, build-up music in the background. Yeah, so basically Trump was downplaying it the entire time. And the number of cases, or the number of people who had, COVID-19 in Japan were rising. It was actually, for a while there, the highest, because maybe you saw in the news, they had, like, the Diamond Princess boat that had, what is it, like, it was over 700 people on that boat. It's a lot of people to have the virus. That's a lot. I mean, like, what? Like, a boat can fit, like, 1,000 people or something? And, yeah. And so that counted as Japan. They counted it as, that's how many people were sick in Japan, even though they were just docked in Japan. But, I mean, they eventually let them off, and they brought them into Japan, and they say, hey, you can go home. And a few of those guys died because of it. And, for a while there, they had things where, they didn't. Got to keep the brain moving. Brain shutting down. For a while there, they had the highest numbers, and some people were even joking that Japan was Daini no Wuhan, like the second Wuhan, because the numbers were getting so high. And it was around this time. I mean, I imagine it was like was it early March? Because here in Japan, most kids, they have their holiday, their spring break, during the last month of March, or near the last month of March, or last week of March. And Shinzo Abe decided the way to mitigate the situation was they would give all the kids, 2 weeks off from school. And, because I work at a school and we had to shut down too, because, the way things work here in Japan is, it's all about that shame, You got to turn on that music. Shame, shame, shame. What I mean by that is the reason why I say it's all about that shame is because a bunch of parents from our school called us and they're like, "How can you be open at a time like this?" Yeah, so eventually, Abe decided that there weren't going to be schools open for kids during this first couple of weeks, and what we had to do at work was basically close, because the shame from other parents saying that, well, this school is closed, why isn't your school closed? Bullshit like that. Despite having parents call us up and like, hey, can we drop your kid? Can we drop our kids off? We really want to get rid of them. We really don't want them here. And that's basically their attitude, pretty much, in a nutshell. And, they tried to do that, and we couldn't, so I spent 2 whole weeks doing fucking Zoom training. I don't know if anybody's ever done Zoom training, or if anyone is doing their working from home. I'm not sure who it is that's watching this or listening. Send us a comment if you are. Tell us about your experience, about what's going on. Yeah, so it was 2 weeks of pretty much nothing, of us just cleaning the school and getting makeup classes and level checks and, trying to do business when we're not supposed to. pretty much. And I'm not sure the exact date in the United States because I don't live there. I mean, all I do is I just get the news through my phone when it became a real thing, or when the coronavirus became the thing. I guess probably it became a thing when like the numbers started rising, because I think the thing about this disease is that it has an incubation period, and it stays inside your body for a certain amount of days before you know you have it. And I guess that's the scary part of it, and that it's kind of like a television show. It's sort of like, okay, for example, like Stranger Things. People usually binge Stranger Things because it all comes out at one time. So people are only talking about it for a week or two, but it's like Game of Thrones or Westworld or any of these big budget TV shows where it's like people are talking about it for months. So it's become one of these things now where, because of its long stay period and the horrible things it's doing to the world, it's in the air. It's in the zeitgeist. People are talking about it all the time. It's changing people's lives. And I want to say it was like mid-March is when it really took off in the U.S. I mean, I'm making it sound like it's a project or a movie. But no, I mean, that's when the numbers started getting outrageously high, and before it made it to the number one spot above China, having the number of sick people. And actually, I think Italy has more deaths than China does. But yeah, so going back to Japan, there's a couple of good articles written by a former guest in the show, Patrick St. Michel. I recommend go checking those out about how people have been kind of handling the coronavirus here. It's been kind of frustrating because there's this fine line between, wanting to be cynical about the Japanese government because, these are the people who essentially, back in 2011, pretty much downplayed the nuclear meltdown of 3 nuclear plants in Fukushima. They pretty much said that, no, it didn't melt down. No, it didn't happen. What are you talking about? No, you mistranslated that. It's wrong. But no, it did really happen. It's not 1, but 3. 3 nuclear reactors melted to the ground. And they kept that a secret. I mean, I understand why they did it. Because, to avoid panic, to avoid people to buy lots of things from the store. That's part of the biggest reason. So I kind of feel like the same way that, it's hard for me not to be cynical of the government here. Because they really haven't made too many announcements, really. And I'm seeing a bunch of people on Twitter who are saying things like, no, you're being too cynical. And then it's sort of like, Japan has its shit together. Like, as if you've been watching Japandi Jones or any of the Japan people here, Mayday-san, any of these people who live stream, I guess Japandi Jones probably is the only person who's IRL streaming right now. And everybody's still going to work. I mean, things are kind of shut down a little bit here. It's not quite like the picture the media paints for me, how it is in the States with everybody being quarantined and a lot of businesses being closed. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the food places are still open. A lot of places are still okay for the most part. But the biggest thing here is that there has been an announcement. I mean, there's been rumors. And the hints of this title of the show, Lockdown is Coming, comes from I want to say WeChat post. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I mean, my girlfriend sent this to me. But it's from this wife of some person who works in an embassy. Here, I'll show you. It's this one right here. It's in Japanese, so I'd have to translate it. And it pretty much says the government's pretty much planning to do a lockdown from the 31st, that's today actually, to the, what is it, to the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, for 3 weeks, for 21 days. And this will start, I guess, I guess I guess this is fake, or maybe they were planning it in the government, or maybe she misheard information. That's probably the case. She probably just misheard. I get the impression that the government themselves, they don't really know what to do, and they're scrambling to get whatever resources they have right now. Because, as everyone probably knows who's watching this, the world's going to go through a financial meltdown at some point because, everything's being shut down, everything's closing. My impression is that they're trying to make plans, but they don't know what to exactly do. Because, April 1st is going to come around here, and eventually kids are going to have to go back to school, and the numbers are rising here, the number of sick. And from what I understand is this is a disease you don't want to get. I mean, because I've had pneumonia before, or ammonia. I always call it ammonia, like something you wash a window with. Or pneumonia, or pneumonia. I can never pronounce it right. I've had one of those before. It sucks. And especially if it's like a really bad one. Takes a while to get over it, really. I mean, especially if you feel like you have fluid in your lungs. Ugh. Hold on. I mean, it's just also, it's something I have also to remind my girlfriend that it's also pollen season. That if you start sneezing and coughing or something inadvertently, it probably has something to do with the pollen, the mist in the air. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So there hasn't been any official announcements, and it seems like other cities have been locking down and deciding to. A lot of them have been restricting travel, because also what this message was saying in Japanese is that they were going to restrict travel from prefecture to prefecture. And my job is in Chiba. I'm actually in Tokyo right now, so that would be quite a problem for me. There's more in here. I could probably put these pictures down below. I'm probably getting the person in trouble who posted this, because their name and their well, I guess their picture is on here, and you could easily track down who this is. Who's ever wife of whatever embassy this is. I forgot which one it is. It doesn't say here, but yeah. I mean, what's really weird is there was a press conference with the governor of Tokyo on television saying something like saying, well, don't go out at night because, the coronavirus comes out at night. Well, she didn't say that exactly, but something to that effect. Something to stay indoors at night. I don't know why I make everybody sound like a carny, or particularly politicians, but maybe they are carnies. I like fucking carnies, but anyway. Yeah, she was saying something like you shouldn't go out at night, and you should do the social distancing. Yeah, there is no I should say that. There is no social distancing really being enforced here in Japan. And the numbers went up this weekend. The numbers went up to 63 people. And Shimura Ken died. If, famous Japanese comedian, Mai Faja. That guy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go check him out. He made some great timeless comedy. I think probably one of the best Japanese comedians that probably ever lived. I don't really like Japanese comedy, but that's one I like. So I recommend that you go check it out. It's kind of tragic. I mean, he wasn't that old. I mean, some people are like, he was old. He was 70 years old when he passed away. I mean, what did they say? Like, Japanese people live a long time. So I guess it's kind of a surprise. But then again, my girlfriend's stepdad died at the age of 70, 74. Can't remember the exact age. So maybe that's not true for everybody. I mean, particularly in Japan, I mean. And what's also kind of frustrating is the person I work with, my manager at work, he still all thinks this is a joke. My girlfriend was pretty upset with me because it's hard not to be so cynical about this and, downplay this virus as it's like nothing. You're like, I could never get it. It could never get me. I'm Japanese. I'm built with steel. I got Japanese steel condom built inside me. And that's kind of the attitude everybody has. There's a few students, particularly the students themselves, there who said they didn't want to go to school because they were afraid of contracting the virus or passing the virus. And I mean, I'm 100% say, hey, if you're worried about it, I think you should, not just because you hate going to school and you hate learning, or maybe you think I'm a shitty teacher. I think it is a good time to like actually practice caution, because maybe you're distrusting of the media or whatever because you're so tired of people telling you lies, to get you to buy shit that you don't really need. I should probably also mention that particularly a lot of the stuff that came out of China were, as people, I was saying this on Twitter, that we're so used to China just telling us lies or feeding their, structured amount of information that we don't really take anything they say seriously. And I guess maybe when it started getting serious is when they canceled the NBA. And, oh yeah, it's probably also worth mentioning that they eventually canceled the Olympics, which took fucking forever. God damn it. I'm like, Jesus Christ. All right, I understand, this is basically what I understand from what I've read, that Abe, or whatever it is, the IOC, the chairman of who owns the Olympics, they pretty much did nothing the entire time when this whole virus stuff started. The only time when it seemed like they budged internationally, from basically what I'm reading on the news, is they budged when Canada said, we're not sending our peeps. We're just not doing it. I think I can't confirm this. I mean, I don't have a link if somebody asks me. This one I can't confirm, but I'm pretty sure France did the same thing. France is like, yeah, we're not sending our peeps either. And so pretty much everybody in the IOC chairman and probably Abe, I'm not sure who organizes this shit. I mean, I could probably research it and dig deep down in this rabbit hole, but my name's not Patrick St. Michel. He's a good journalist. I mean, he's been writing some great stuff based on this whole thing. And also, what's his name? The guy who'd like to have a guest on this show, Oscar Boyd, who's also a writer for Japan Times. He also had an interesting piece. It was a good balance of being apologetic for Japan and also being cynical about Japan and the way they're handling COVID-19. There's been some good writing pieces on it, especially, I mean, because these are all in English. They're good thought pieces, and they're pretty good. They're well researched, and they have good backing, and they're well, put together, is what I'm saying. Yeah, so pretty much Abe was, they decided to cancel the Olympics because I think that they did it because the Canada pulled out, and eventually more people would pull out of the Olympics. Like, are you crazy? We're not going to do this now. I mean, especially with the numbers rising. Like, I mean, maybe China, quote unquote, has stabilized the amount of people who are sick and who have it. Like, if anybody's following me on, like, Facebook or Twitter, I don't know, one of these things, I was saying something like, hey, USA, looks like you've won the disease Olympics today. And I had a person who I used to go to church with, like the Mormon church. I think it upset him a little bit when I wrote that. And he wrote something like, well, at least we don't hide our numbers. I mean, he probably didn't use that tone, but, I mean, that's the way it sounds in my head. And I was thinking, well, maybe China's hiding them. It's hard to say. I mean, like, I guess it's kind of like one of these open secret things, so it seems like everybody's talking about it, that people are they were trying to really hide the numbers in Japan, before the Olympics was starting, because they wanted people to come for the Olympics. I guess, I don't know, don't quote me on this, don't at me, wherever the fuck it is, but I'm pretty sure that this Olympics, postponing them, cost the government at least $6 billion, or some figure like that. It was high. So they really didn't want to do it, and they had all this preparation. They prepared their ass off just to get these games started. And if you listen to Deep Dive, not to cannibalize this show, but the Deep Dive podcast, they talked about how this is the first time the Olympics has ever been postponed. They've never done this before. So, I mean, obviously Japan really wants these games. I mean, like, they got a massive hard-on for these games to happen. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense. They spent all this money on it. Yeah, so, I mean, eventually they canceled them. They postponed them. And it's really hard not to be cynical of the government right now, because mostly the numbers rose of number of sick right after they made this announcement. I'm not sure it's like one of these like Donald Trump moves where like they do like, well, what about the Olympics? You know, where like it's kind of like this misdirection thing, because you know that's like Trump's thing, where like he likes to misdirect people. Like, well, what about Hillary? What about Obama? What about my ass? What about, you know, cheeseburgers? What about McDonald's? This whataboutism bullshit. Yeah, I mean, April's just around the corner. I mean, Disneyland is shut down, because anybody who follows the show knows I work near Disneyland, and the trains have been empty, or they're not 100% empty, they've been emptier. I could probably take a picture for you and throw it up on Twitter if anybody cares to see. And yeah, they've been empty, and there's not that many people. And it's nice. It's been nice. You get a place to sit all the time, but I'm not sure how it looks other places, like how the trains look. I'm not sure if it's still crowded in the morning. I could probably ask my girlfriend. She always gets on the train early in the morning. If it's still what they call a sushi zume, or like they're packing you in like fucking, they're packing sushi. Yeah, so this kind of brings us to now, where we're seeing, like, or at least we're seeing, the royal we, where I've seen a bunch of places, like particularly like Italy, where they had these high numbers and they've had these draconian laws about closing down the country, closing the borders, closing transportation, where here it's just sort of like you're having the mayor of Tokyo saying, Koike, fuck, I don't remember her first name. I guess it doesn't matter. Saying things like, well, I guess, no, you don't have to go outside, whatever. Who cares, right? Yeah, it's a disease, you know, it sucks. I think maybe this is kind of probably well staged by her, because, or not just her, by the government themselves, because they don't want to be draconian, because they know people need to work, and they need to keep the economy afloat, and who cares about old people, you know? It's like, come on, man. I'm like, you probably know old people you like and you care about, and you don't want to see them die. I mean, if you do, then what are you doing in your life? I mean, you must really hate yourself if you want to, you know, see other people die. And part of what I understand about being a human, and I'm not just saying this for the sake of, you know, sounding like kumbaya, as they say, kumbaya, my lord, or, you know, being a person who cares about the environment or some, you know, liberal bullshit or something. John just sent me something online. Thank you, John. It's the trolley problem displayed on here. Kind of interesting. It's a nice little meme. I'm not sure if I could call it a meme. Thanks for the meme, John. I'll throw that up on my Twitter later. Yeah, so you're having a lot of these problems with people needing to go to work, and they don't want to shut down work, and the government just kind of suggesting, like, maybe you don't have to, you should probably stay inside, you know, it's okay, you know, and it seems like a lot of people are, like, a couple of my friends back in the States, they're posting things on Facebook where they're venerating places like Singapore. I'm not sure how it's done in Singapore because I don't live there, and I can't really read the room. I mean, I know the numbers are like, what, 800 or something right now. In Japan, they're like 1,000 something, you know, close to 2,000. Probably be by 2,000 by the time this thing hits the podcast. or the SoundCloud or before it's uploaded. Excuse me. It'll be around that. The USA is the highest now, like second to Italy, then Spain, then China. If the best website to go to, I think, is if anybody wants to check the numbers, like as a live update, just to freak yourself out, you can go to worldometers.info/coronavirus/ or that's backslash, by the way. Oh, it's up to 785,000 and 37,000 deaths and 165,606 recovered. Yeah, as of this recording, the USA stands at 164,000. Italy stands at 101,000. Spain stands at 87,000. China stands at 81,000. Germany at 66, and so forth. And then Japan stands at currently 1,953. It'll probably break to 2,000 at some point. It just seems like they're steadily rising, and that it's nowhere going down. And I mean, the problem with this is probably people who are watching this will know that hospitals are filling up, and you can't be overloading hospitals, especially if if you have too many sick people. Anyone who comes to Japan knows that there's a lot of old people who live in Japan, and that there's old people. I mean, I was going back to what I was saying about my friend in the United States was talking about. They were posting on Twitter. My former manager at the bookstore, Bookman, I used to work at, Patty, she was writing about how Japan has lowered its numbers, because of its culture. And, and they're saying Italy has such high numbers because of its culture. It's like it's touching culture, it's shaking hands culture, that sort of thing. That kind of sounds like racism, but I guess maybe it's not. I'm not sure. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I understand how those our diseases are spread from touching people. A sign of showing that. I was watching the 2011 movie Contagion the other day, and interesting thing I learned from that movie. Anybody who's seen it? What's his name? Larry Fish, Lawrence Fishburne's in that film, and interesting tidbit he put in that film. I'm not sure if this is true. I probably should look up to see whether it's true or not. But he was talking about how a handshake back in the day used to represent that you weren't armed. And that's where the origin started from it. You wanted to show somebody that you didn't have a gun. And that was a way of saying that, you're safe. You're not a person who wants to, pull a gun out and blow your head off or something. So that's partially probably why they do it in the United States still. I can't confirm any of this. Like I said, I can only really talk about my experience, my own testimony, what I heard, the way I heard it. I wouldn't be surprised if the lockdown is coming. I really feel like they're gonna have to make a decision here. Unless I think they're kind of hoping that the numbers don't make it to the world stage, because they're pretty much far down here. Let's see, what number is Japan at right now? USA's 1, Italy's 2, Spain's 3, China's 4, Germany's 5, France is 6, Iran's 7, UK's 8, Switzerland's 9, Belgium's 10, Netherlands 11, Turkey's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So Japan is 31 on the list for most sick. I'm not saying I want to, work from home, but at the same time, I don't want to catch this. I mean, I wouldn't mind working from home, really. And I don't really mind if things got locked down. I mean, I would like things to get better. I'm kind of indifferent, really. But I am kind of frustrated with the way, people are handling the situation. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I guess there's, what is it? I should probably talk about my girlfriend, who's been rather upset about this whole situation. She's been a little upset at me about me not being sincere enough about the virus. I wanted to get her here to talk about it, but she's always been talking about how she has really nothing to say on these streams, and she's not like me, where she can always like talk for these long amounts of time, whereas I like doing stuff like this. She's always good as a background character. If anybody who watches this show will know that she's always the one sitting over here, right over in the sofa, and just, checking her phone or doing some work that she has assigned to her that she has to pick up at work, because she's like a secretary at a trading company. And, but yeah. Oh, something else I wanted to mention that I forgot to say. Has anybody ever seen The Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen? I know this makes me sound like an old person. That was a great movie. That's kind of how I feel about the Japanese government. There's this one scene in The Naked Gun where the whole building's on fire and people running out of like this building that's on fire and they're freaking out, and Leslie Nielsen just walks in front of it. And this is the Japanese government, by the way. They're like, there's nothing to see here. It's nothing. Everything's fine. Go away. Everything's okay now. They always do this. And yeah, I'm just going to say it for the 500th fucking goddamn time. I'm fucking frustrated at them. Dude. I'm tired. I'm tired. And I want the shit to be over. And I'm upset about these people who are very cynical. Or not, actually no, because I myself am cynical. But I'm upset about these people who, I guess I'm upset about myself. Or no, like I said, my girlfriend was upset about me being insincere about the situation. And it's easy to brush off something like this, pretend it doesn't exist, because it's been made by the media, and the media told you everything. And, they're lies, they're the fake news. Whereas, like, you had Trump on television, like, talk about some cure for this disease, which actually didn't even work. Which is like, there's, in the film Contagion, 2011, there's Jude Law's character makes fake news, and, he's the one who passes off that this drug will magically cure you, like the snake oil sale. And, of course it doesn't work, but, it makes him lots of money, or it brings him lots of attention. And it's like, we have the fucking president of the United States passing off fake news. And it's just like, I guess, I don't know. I'm conflicted now. I'm really conflicted. It's hard to, like, really talk about something like this, and take it seriously when you have fuckers laughing about it, like the people I work with, and then you have people who are taking it very seriously, or maybe taking it too seriously, and, because for a while there, here in Japan, if you've been following any of the people here in Japan, that you couldn't get checked for it. If you wanted to get checked for COVID-19, they just wouldn't do it, because A, they didn't want the publicity from the news media, and B, there's another reason. I forgot what B was. They don't have, like, the equipment to check you for it or something, because I know, like, ventilators for COVID-19 is like, what, $400 or something? Something around that. Yeah, so I think lockdown is going to eventually be inevitable. I'm not sure. They're probably going to do the Japan thing where they always do, where they're like, they secretly try to, like, say, we're not locking down, we're just stopping a few trains, that's all. It's not a lockdown. It's called blah. They always do this. I don't know. I don't want to be fucking ethnocentric here, where I impose my own culture on somebody else's, but at the same time, I don't want to be apologetic. It's hard. And I think I'm going to have to end it on this. Famicom Mark. No lockdown. Fuck you, Mark. God damn it. No, Mark. Thank you, Koike. No lockdown. Like, mark my word. It will happen. It'll just be called something else. Especially, the only way there will be no lockdown is if the numbers start to go down and people suddenly just start to forget about it. Reach for the sky, bang, bang. Okay, thank you, JM Classic Paragon. Yeah, that's the only way you'll see it. Probably there will be no lockdown. But if the numbers rise, I imagine there will be one. And if Japan magically figures out how to, like, avoid this and still keep people on the streets and still have people freaked out, I'd be surprised. I would. I really will. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream, coming to the chat. Apocalypse 34, Famicom Mark, JM Classic Paragon. Be sure to follow if you haven't already. Give us 5 stars on iTunes. Actually, those reviews really do help. They help move it, because a lot of what it is you're defined by numbers on the internet. What is it? I had like one guest or something I was trying to get on the show, and they're like, "Oh, these numbers are really low." God damn it, fucking Lisa. That's Lisa Takeba. I'm just gonna say her name because I don't care anymore. That was one of my filmmaker friends, Lisa Takeba. She makes films, and I asked her to be on the show, but like, for example, I guess she can't do interviews because she's like a filmmaker or something, and she has like some deal with, I don't know, Stardust Pictures or something, where she can't do interviews, and which is fine, but it's just sort of like, I understand maybe there needs to be new things done to the show. Hey, thanks for following the show, Famicom Mark. Thanks. What is it? What else can I say? Yeah, no, she didn't want to do the show because of the low numbers or something. So yeah, building up the numbers really does help. It helps more than you'd think. I'm not review honestly. It doesn't have to be one of these things like, did you write the numbers? Did you put it in? Did you write everything? Did you write everything down? It's not one of these bullshit things where not like one of my fucking former guests who's constantly telling me to give them 5 stars. You know who you are. God damn it. I'm probably gonna I should just say his goddamn name. It's like, I don't know why I'm like trying to protect him. Because eventually, if he's gonna want to be like a guest on the show constantly, I'm gonna have to say his name constantly. It's Ramey Michaels. Ramey always telling me to give him like 5 stars on Amazon, and he wants me to read his new book, and I will. I mean, it's important to have new guests on the show and to see some evolution, and people like seeing drama. So I mean, eventually I should just be honest with everybody. Sometimes honesty can go too far of a long way. You're just looking like a dick, but we love our dicks here on the internet. I had to mute Trump because Trump was just it was just too obnoxious. It's like having to follow Logan Paul's podcast or having to listen to it every day. And I muted him on Twitter because I'm on Twitter all the time. And because I knew I'm gonna hear about it anyway. He's the president of the United States. I'm gonna hear about this one way or the other, either through like a news article or whatever it is. So I mean, that's why you come here. You come here for assholes, and that's why people love people on the internet. It's for assholes. It's not about seeing the Dalai Lama or people doing good things, or I guess there are wholesome memes out there, but I guess people don't like looking at wholesome memes, feeling good about themselves. I can't say much. JM Classic Paragon, Ramey, tell him to talk about the pickup. Yeah, no, he'll be here or through the internet, however ways I'll interview him. I think I'd rather have Ramey be here. The first time I did an interview with him, he had to use it from his phone, and his connection was awful. I'm not sure if his internet connection's any better because everybody's fucking using the internet now to like do work and shit. Yeah. So going back to what I was saying, 5 stars. Or not 5 stars. Fuck. Whatever amount of stars you want to give me. Writing those articles, people followed already. I know you don't have to do more than that. So, anyway. So, until then, my name's Radri, and hey, guys.
Jesus, man.